Okay, crew, we're back for topic 1.3, and this is really India is our next piece of the puzzle. We're going to look at topic 1.3, developments in South and Southeast Asia. South Asia is usually India and the surrounding environments. Used to be basically all the parts that used to be British India that are now the country of India, but also Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Bhutan. Um, Southeast Asia is all the areas you see on the map here, both the part connected on the continent and the islands between Asia and Australia in there. So, cultural unity. After the fall of the Gupta Empire around 550 CE, India once again fragmented into smaller groups, and you can see the Gupta Empire at one of its biggest extents on the background, and really in this period until really Islam begins to move in during the 1200s and later. Hinduism is kind of the backbone of Indian culture, as it really is today. And most significant version of that is the caste system, which the caste system is not as big a deal as it used to be, because it's been to some extent outlawed in modern India. The first of the Hindu empires, and this is one we've actually looked into without really knowing it, because we didn't talk about it much. When we did our DBQ on the Portuguese in the Indian Ocean, the Vijayanagar Empire, for lack of a better way of saying it, is the one that was in place in a lot of that territory we were talking about. They controlled much of southern India. They were Hindu, and it was originally formed to resist Muslim incursions into southern India as a way to push back. But what they end up really doing is sustaining a peaceful encounters between Muslim and Hindus, and really the Muslim merchants who were big in that DBQ we did, become a very prominent presence in the trading ports of India during that time, and especially in the Vijayanagar Empire. Okay. In the northern India, you have more Muslim domination. Now, not totally, because you do have the Rajput kingdoms, which are kind of maybe more a little central India, but central northern India. They are Hindu. Eventually, they are all conquered by Akbar the Great. They are predominantly clan-based, which kind of leads to their downfall, because it creates a very loose-knit society where loyalty to clan is much more important than your loyalty to a ruler. And so there's a lot of infighting constantly, everybody trying to get in power. Around 1200, the first of the Muslim-based empires comes into being. This is the Delhi Sultanate, and it really lasts for a little over 300 years. They conquered much of northern India after 1300. It's a series of 5 dynasties that even were able to repel the attacks of the Mongols, and really with their sponsorship of Islam leads to a decline of Buddhism in South Asia, because Islam becomes really a more attractive alternative. Under the rule of the Delhi Sultanate, India becomes more integrated into the world trade systems during this period, and Islam really begins infusing into the culture, and you begin to have a lot of cultural blending during this time period. The religions, a little bit on the religions of South Asia. Buddhism and Christianity are there, though not on a large extent, and they offer, one of the draws of them is they offer a monastic life as an alternative to marriage. You could become a monk or a nun. Hinduism is still the dominant religion of the region, and will remain so until the partition of India in 1948, when it will really move mostly southward into what is now modern day India. Between 75 and 80% of the population of South Asia is Hindu during the time frames that we're studying right now, 1200 to 1450. And the strongest component of Hinduism, especially during that time, is the caste system. Now, Islam comes along and starts pushing in with the advent of the Delhi Sultanate, but really started getting there first earlier through the trade routes. And they really made solid inroads into the culture for a variety of reasons, and a lot of it has to do with the caste system. Islam does not have a caste system, and so it has this more egalitarian or equitable set of principles where everybody is equal, and it really makes it an attractive alternative to many of the lower class, especially the untouchables, and it really becomes attractive to the farmers for that reason. You do have people that will convert simply for financial reasons. They kind of become nominally Muslims to avoid the taxes on Muslims. And you also have a very strong appeal of the Sufis, those wandering holy men, due to the long history of India of this type of holy man wandering around. The effect is that as much as 25% of the population during the time frame we're looking at, 1200 to 1450, converts to Islam, most of them from the lower classes, which really creates a lot of social upheaval. Okay, finishing up South Asia, there's some cultural interactions. You have the Qutb Minarets, one of the most famous pieces of Islamic architecture. During this time, it's a victory tower that's built at the Qutb complex, which is a big Indian religious complex that is eventually co-opted by the Muslims. You have the language of Urdu, which is the official language of modern Pakistan, and it is really the most common language of the time period of 1200, 1450 in South Asia. And then you had the Bhakti movement, which has actually been around a lot longer than the period we're talking to. And what it really was this intense devotion to one of the Hindu gods that required song and prayer and ritual. It often pushed against the caste system, and it pushed against general hierarchies, and it later spawns movements around spiritual sages who kind of become a counterweight to the Sufis. Okay, moving on to Southeast Asia, there's really only just some kingdoms you need to know from there. So there's several of them. You have the Srivijaya, based in Malaya and Sumatra, which is this territory down here. An early example of the connection between commerce and state building and religious change. And a lot of that has to do from the fact that they conquered and controlled this Strait of Malacca, which is the richest trade route in the world even today. So that gave them a lot of access to gold, to spices, and to taxes levied on passing ships, so they were very wealthy. Later, you had the Majapahit kingdom, which was centered more down here in Java, from 1293 to 1597, and eventually they will conquer a great deal of this territory. They are a tributary empire, requiring tribute from their conquered lands. They're the last of the major Hindu empires in Southeast Asia, and often seen as a precedent, at least territorially, for modern Indonesia. You have some that are based on land. Sri Lanka, which is over south of India, the Sinhala dynasties, series of successive kingdoms known by capital city, and then probably the most famous, at least ones that people know the most about because of the temple at Angkor Wat, is the Khmer Empire, centered in what is modern-day Cambodia. They built this temple complex of Angkor Wat. It became the largest religious structure of the pre-modern world, or pre-1450. Commercially exported forest projects in exchange for Indian and Chinese goods. And in response to that, a large Chinese diaspora or enclave develops in Cambodia, which is this area over here. Okay. So that's what you need against Southeast Asia, about South and Southeast Asia. So I'm going to leave you with a picture of Angkor Wat, just to kind of show you what that looks like. See you on the next one.